We're learning today Perek Aleph Halacha Beis Hachametz Pesach Osav Hanoya, and we'll go down to the Peirush HaMeir. We're going to learn about the Isa Hanoah from Chametz and Pesach, Isa Hanoah on Erev Pesach after Chatzos, Isa to leave it over in his possession, and how many Yisurim is over when he leaves it over in his possession, and what is the law regarding yeast on Pesach, and what is the difference between chometz and yeast. The Rambam's words are in the bold black. Beis, halacha beis, hachometz v'pesach osa ba'anoya, shenemet says le'yechel chometz le'yeboi heta achila. One is not allowed to have any benefit from it. The Maggid Mishnah cites Psochim Chav Aleph Amud Beis. Chizkiyo says, how do I know that chometz and Pesach is also ba'ano? It says you should not eat chometz, and you should not have any heta achilo. Rashi explains, Rae Gann brings it doesn't say lo yoichal, it says lo yoichel. And therefore, it means Isa Ano as well. Now, Isa Ano from chometz on Erev Pesach, after Chatzos, where do we learn that from? The Smag writes, chometz and Pesach is also ba'ano. Rabbeinu Eliyahu Mizrahi says this is the din from Erev Pesach from 6 hours and further. That's also ba'ano. And even Rab Shimon, who holds that chometz is forbidden by Achila Erev Pesach only Merabonon, still you burn it from the 6th hour, lest he come to eat it. Meaning that even though it's, as it says in Toises, that the Smag writes, Shechometz Pesach also ba'ano ki nokat lo Loshen Rambam. He holds also ba'ano because he uses the Rambam's language. So the Mizrahi says that you can't say that the Smag and Rambam are of the opinion that chometz is also ba'ano only on Pesach from what it says lo yehi ochel. That's mentioned by the 7 days of Pesach, and there's no Issa before Pesach. And Issa Ano is learned from that posuk. Thus, Issa Ano is only on the days of Pesach, because only Chizkiyo learns Issa chometz from. We go to the next page in the Peirush from Le'yochel chometz. So you shouldn't have any benefit of achila. You can't sell it to be able to purchase something else. But Ravu says that wherever it says lo yiseichal or lo yiseiochlu, etc., it always infers that Isra Achila and Isra Ano are both included. And it doesn't matter whether it's written with a tzera or a cholam. So, and in Psochim, Chav Ches and Beis, we find that 3 times it says in the Torah, Isra Achilas Chometz. One is for before Pesach, one is for on Pesach, and one is what to do with the Chometz after Pesach. And since we hold like a Ravu, so Chometz is also about Noam and Torah before Pesach as well. The Mishnah asks that Toisus said that even according to Rab Shimon, you burn the Chometz of Pesach to make sure that you will not burn it slowly under your vessels, so they shouldn't come to eat it, because even Rab Shimon agrees that Erev Pesach you can't eat it. But certainly it's mutar ba'ano when he takes a lot of it and puts it under the vessels to heat it. Even though he's cooking at that time and he's having a benefit, because with a lot there is no Isser Hano according to Rab Shimon. Furthermore, he asks the question, even according to Toises, Rab Shimon chometz is also ba'ano before Pesach. It's only the Rabbanon, not Midiraisa. The Rambam is speaking about chometz that you over on it on the loisesa. That's the Iraisa. The aim should have mentioned, and what the Rae Gann writes, that chometz and Pesach is also ba'ano is only on Pesach, because the posuk is Rab Shimon only referring to Pesach itself, but Erev Pesach it shouldn't be also ba'ano. The Rambam says posuk Rabbi Yehuda that chometz is also ba'achila mechatzos yoim yudalet. What he writes that chometz is also ba'ano Pesach and not before Pesach is because he holds like Chizkiyo, that learns that chometz is also ba'ano milo yochel, and that posuk is only talking about within Pesach. So we turn the page, we go down to the Peirush again on page 22. And even though the Rambam paskins like a Ravu, still an Isur Hano bepesach is a special posuk, liyochel, that you should never have the achilo. Therefore, the Rambam uses this posuk, even though he learns that the Isur of Erev Pesach is one of Hano also. This is what the Rambam also on the Rif writes, the beginning of Perek Kol Shor. He brings the words of Chizkiyo, and Masbe'aran, that the reason that he brings Chizkiyo, because it's easier to explain Yochel on the 7 days. Ravu doesn't disagree, he just adds, even if it would say Lo Yisoichlu, it would also say Isa'ano. Therefore the Rif brings the posik of Chizkiyo, and therefore we see that sometimes the Rishonim bring the psukim, even though they're not actually totally applicable. The Rambam paskins k'Ravavu Hilchos Ma'acholos Asuris. Everywhere it says in the Torah Lo Yisoichlu, Lo Yochel, it doesn't matter. It includes Isra Achila and Isra No until we turn the page again, go down to the Peirush. So the pasuk tells you, just as it did by Nevela. By Nevela it says like that you have a permission, even though you can't eat the Nevela, the dead animal that died without shlit, you are permitted to benefit from it. And like Chelev, where it says as well, there's a special pasuk that says, you can use the Chelev even though you can't eat it for any malacha. Therefore, the only things that we need Torah Shebal Peh that needs to permit us to eat it is Shkotzim Ramosim and Dam and Evim and Achai and Gid Anoshe. That all of these are Matorim Bano Mipi Akabola, even though they're also Ba'achilo. Now, the Gezer Mishnah adds, even according to Chizkiah, Chametz is also Ba'ano before its time, as Tosfos says. And it could be that the Rambam paskins Chizkiah. Therefore, he writes that a Chametz is also Ba'ano b'Yudalad, even slightly before Yudalad itself, because you can't say it starts actually on Yudalad, because then when would you burn it then? But still, from the other ayahs, it would seem that the Rambam passes the Ravu, that Erev Pesach, it's also Nano from the, because it says the Loshen Achilo, and Achilo always includes, according to Ravu, both eating and Hano. How many Yisurim is one over when he leaves Chometz in his house? How many is Chometz in his house in Pesach? Even though he didn't eat it, he's over on 2 lavin. One is what it says, and another one it says so the Rambam calls it 2 separate lavin, and he counts it that way in the Sefer HaMitzvahs. The Magen Mishnah that says the Rambam doesn't make a differentiation where he left it, whether it's b'gvulecho or b'beiteichem. We learn from Surah it doesn't matter whether it's in the house or in Gvulin, is over b'sach chometz. And so the Rambam writes in Perek Daled Halacha Aleph and Beis. It says in the Torah, Lo yolach chometz. I might think if you hid it or you gave it to somebody else, it shouldn't be over. Therefore, it says, even if you gave it over or hid it, you might think you're not over only if it's his house, but if it's distant, you're not over. You go to the next daf, and here we find any place that's your possession, overseas, wherever it is, if it's yours, then you are over. So if somebody leaves Pesach, Eretz Yisrael, and he buys alcohol and leaves it at the airport, and goes to America or elsewhere, and it's in the airport, but he's only going to pick it up after Pesach, he's over if he didn't sell it to a rabbi. So I guess the Mishnah asks the question, you're over on 3 lavin, because there's also the Yerol Lechol Chomei. It's not only So'er. So'er is mentioned B'chol Gulecho, B'chol B'betecho, B'beischo. But there's a third posuk that says Yerol Lechol Chometz. And why doesn't he mention this? Because that posuk is written together with the posuk of So'er, and it comes to teach you that Chometz and So'er are one and the same as far as the Issa goes. There's no differentiation. The Lechem Mishnah asks a question, there's 4 lavin, because according to the Gemara, If you are over on Chametz, you're over also on sour. They're all the same. They're both the same. So you have sour li'motzah, you have li'yerelecha sour, li'yerelecha Chametz, which also would be mashma li'yerelecha sour, should be 4 lavim. And Perek when he mentions there, he says there's a lav li'yerelecha v'gam li'yermotzah, just like there is by sour. Why the Rambam doesn't count them like 4 lavim? And he answers, you must say that the Rambam considers lo'iroer as 1 lav, and the second lav is lo'imotzah. But he's not happy with it. Therefore, he answers that the 2 lavim that he does mention, one by Sor and one by Chometz, you need both of them. Because they are needed, as we find in Beis Zayin or Beis, it's needed to tell you you can't see yours, but you can see somebody else's, meaning the non-Jews. And therefore it says Shalcho Lecho 3 times, and the Gemara learns from that it doesn't matter whether a goy who is within your domain or a goy that is a free man, has nothing to do with you, and one on Chometz, so we don't have another posuk to teach us anything else, and therefore b'sa'ir you're over because the emotzei, from what it says, the emotzei v'techem, and we learn sa'ir l'gzeir Shabbos, so we only have 2 psukim left over, 2 empty psukim. The other 2 items were used for the goyim that's in your, who is working for you, or a goy who's not working for you, and we only have 2 lav, and we'll stop here. We'll continue the next shiur from page 25.